welcome everybody to this session of Ready to Teach Week in first semester 23, how time flies. I'm Associate Professor Christine Slade and I'm the Italy Academic Lead of Assessment, which often now is around academic integrity. And I have a team of people supporting different sections of this, so it's hopefully very informative to you no matter where you sit on the academic integrity spectrum across UQ. So thanks, Elsa. So first of all, of course, we'd like to acknowledge country as part of the University of Queensland and acknowledge the traditional owners and custodianship of their lands on which we're meeting in different areas today, and pay our respects to their ancestors and descendants who continue that connection. We also appreciate and value their contribution to our society in Australia and to global society. So welcome. Thank you. So we have about an hour and a half together, max. So this is a quick rundown of what we are going to try and achieve. So firstly, you know, the hot topic of the moment is ChatGPT. I'm sure most of you have had a little play, but if not, we're going to show you how to do that and discuss where we're at the moment around the UQ stance and what we're going to do with assessment, etc. at UQ. And then we're going to look at another tool. So Huang and Elizabeth are going to look at Assignment Watch, a little bit of a different tool, but created by QUT as a detection tool, which is currently free for everybody to use. And then Peter is going to look at resources that are available to yourselves as staff members and to students. And then Rowena and Rod from Student Misconduct are going to look at the new policy framework implementation and how that's been going since the beginning of last year. And we're very fortunate to have Simon Worrell, talk about a case study with us of something that he experienced as an integrity officer. And then it's over to you. If you have questions that you would like to raise with any of us as you see, questions you want to know about related to where you are in, whether you're professional staff or academic staff or whatever, you can actually put them in the chat at any time. And Huang will be actually checking and looking at that and putting them on a Padlet. So when it comes to that time, we'll be able to collate and answer, hopefully, your questions. And then finally, after that, Elsa will wrap up. So thanks, Elsa.
Thanks, Christine. So I'm just going to give a quick demonstration of GP chats. So basically, this is a free tool currently. And basically, you can sign up. I found I had to sign up and then basically they were full. So then you have to sort of wait until you get an email to then you can sort of put your details in and actually use the tool. So if I just... I'm going to just give you a quick demo of how to use it. So I'd like to thank Associate Professor Jason Lodge. He's let me use one of his assessment tasks to actually do the technical demonstration. You may be interested in his LinkedIn post where he discusses sort of what he found out by putting his own assignments into the tool. So if I open up the tool, so this is the tool here. I'm just going to start a new chat. So I'm just going to get the basic assignment question. And frankly, you just pose it here. Some things I like to do is because I hate the American spelling. So I tell it that I want UK spelling. And it'll basically, if you wait, it always takes longer when you're watching, it'll start generating. So I've done this one before. So basically what you can do is remember that for each chat what you've asked previously, and you can basically refine your search. So this one is the first assessment task. It's about educational theories and research in this course. So basically I've done the first one, then I thought, oh, well, I'll pick a few more bits of information out of the instructions to refine it further. I then sort of specified how many words I wanted, that I wanted UK spelling, etc. So you can basically keep refining it and improving on it. Jason's basic feedback on this first one, which is a critical review paper, was basically that, frankly, it just spitted out nonsense. Mostly educational myths, not referenced properly. We did poor on the rubrics, except for the writing style, which was word binary, and he said it would have come out as a borderline 2 or 3. The second assignment, and I'll put that through as well, is a lesson plan. And Jason's feedback on this lesson plan by putting that in. So it had 2 parts. One was the lesson plan, and then was the justification for the lesson plan. And he said basically the lesson plan was fairly well done. As you can see, objectives, materials, it sort of gives a fairly, he said that was fairly well done. Probably would have passed, maybe a 5. But when you go and then ask it to actually justify it, you basically don't get any sort of critical thinking, and you basically contain misconceptions and references properly. So he said it would have been overall a 2 or 3. So that's how GP chat works. And I put the address for that in chat. And I'll now hand to Christine to give a bit more detail on that.
So I guess I've been listening to discussions about that since November last year. So as you probably see, everyone has an opinion about that. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about what's happening at UQ. And I guess the first message is that from the decision makers down, we are on to what we're considering about that. But it is a very fluid space at the moment, because most people are really experimenting with their own assessments or with different types of assessment. And we have, it'll be an evolving space, particularly over semester 1, until we all understand more about what it can do, what we want it to do, what we don't want it to do. So I guess, we're working together in that space. Now, I just took this slide from the draft of the student guide. So Italy is currently developing a set of slides for you if you're a course coordinator or someone, a staff member who wants to use this with students, about guidance for them on how to actually use, at the moment, ChatGPT, but AI generally in their study and in assessment. So it goes through what the benefits are, what the risks are, similar to the other material which we have created, which is and Peter will show you later on, contract cheating, file sharing, which you can share with your class probably just before assessment begins, and you can adapt these slides for your own discussion with the students. So, we're developing this, it'll be out soon, but I picked this slide because really in semester 1, there'll be 3 options. So this is an example from the same slide deck of if you chose to use generative, which obviously means creating content, AI in assessment. This is what the students will see in this slide deck. So it's giving them permission firstly to say, yes, you are able to do that. But even when you go onto the beginning of the chat site, it'll see that it has a list of the limitations that they can already see with the tool. But we want students to think very critically about, whether it's going to, what it can do and what it can't. For example, yes, on some things it might deliver great content, but on others it might be incorrect. It might be at the wrong level or whatever. And students will need this critical approach to it, because it does give out false information sometimes. So we're telling them just don't hastily go and write everything in it. For you, and we've had another sector conversation, I guess you could say, about how do you reference it if you use an AI format in your assessment. So the library has now got a guide that will tell how to cite that. So if it's so similar to other plagiarism, for example, if a student doesn't reference that and they have used it and they get caught with that, it will be a breach under student code of conduct. Obviously, if they've taken the whole thing, so I think Jason's assignment was like, one of them was like 2,000 words. So if they just decided, oh, I'm in a hurry, I haven't had time, and paste the whole thing in as their assignment, that would be considered a contract cheating arrangement. So this is the types of general principles we're giving to students. So thanks, Elsa. So I guess in summary, we'll all be working together about the benefits and limitations of artificial intelligence in study and assessment. And it's really a much bigger topic than just assessment, obviously, and academic integrity, but because of our roles and because of our interests, that's the part we're interested in. And I've, still hearing about what people consider it can't do for assessments, or what it, how could you design your assessment so if you didn't want them to use AI for that, what sorts of things you would have to do. And I've heard things around, Jason was talking the other day in his session about process. So, thinking about the process of developing your argument, the process of analysing whatever, it's a bit more difficult for that. Hassan, for example, who's in Italy as a AI expert, is looking in his class about if you use it, then you have to show the process, like of how you talk to the AI and what you got. So you have to keep a copy of that record and actually bring that in with it. But I still think we'll get to the point where we'll decide when is it appropriate to use and how is it helpful to use, and what other things as human beings we have, like creativity, imagination, thinking deeply, things like that, that might be things this current version can't do, that might be what we want to change. But currently we've got our ECPs in, the students are arriving, we don't know how they're going to use it. We know they're using it around universities. So we're just working together. And I guess that's where I'd like to see your involvement too, because we need your input. And our online community of practice, which is an organisation in Blackboard, would be a nice place where we can communicate with you as an announcement, or you can communicate with us, and Peter, we might get a space set up that you can put in things that you've found that's useful. So it's really a sharing sort of space at the moment. I also want you to know that Italy is definitely available. We are all working in this space. And if you have some challenge or something happening, please contact us. And the latest on the website, the latest teaching and assessment newsletter had a whole section on ChatGPT if you wanted to have a look, just some guidance there. Thanks, Elsa. Last slide from me. I just wanted to let you know that TEXA, so TEXA is our regulatory body, and they have been working for quite a long time in academic integrity and trying to help the sector and universities and private providers educate students and all of that. And they're running a set of webinars, which are going to start, I think, next week with Deakin. Now, the Deakin group that are involved in this is called Cradle, which is a digital learning and assessments set of academics. And they have written some very useful stuff. For example, Phil Dawson during COVID writes some very helpful stuff for us on how to manage, online assessment. And so their first webinar, and we're all invited, it's free, you just have to go to their site, is on Wednesday, February 15. And it's 2 to 4 for them because that's daylight saving time, but that will change for us. But if you're interested, there's definitely experts. I've already heard Rowena Harper talk about this. Margaret Behrman's very well published in this space. So it may be a useful thing for us to just go on and register for that, and we can keep learning as they are learning as well. So thanks, Elsa. Oh, it's Huang next.
Thank you. Elsa, can I please share my screen? Thank you. So in my demo today, I would like to show about a detecting tool called Assignment Watch, which was developed by a group of academics and engineering at QUT. And basically, this tool using the text matching technology to match the content of the assignment that you input in the system, and then send you the notifications about the sources that contain the answers to the assessment that you are providing for the student. So here is the website, and I'm going to put in the chat, the website, so you can try this tool in your time. And the website is very simple, but with very useful guide and video guide. And how it works, simply select the assignment submission and then enter the information about your name, email, institution. So UQ has been listed during the trial period of this tool. Enter assignment title, level of subject, for example, diploma or master, year of subject like first year, second year. The assignment release date is important because the system will monitor the content during the time that you input in this period. The key part in this submission is the monitoring terms. So you can add up to 20 terms, but these terms can be long. For example, you can have 20 paragraphs and separate each paragraph with the semicolon. So during our trial period, we have been using the content from an accounting course with the agreement of the course coordinator. So basically what I have done is to copy the question and then the specific requirements for each part of the question into the system, except for the multiple choice. Into the submission and send to Assignment Watch. And after that, I received an email about the sources that have been matched for this assignment. And there was one site that contained the assessment answers, the check, and I can get into the website and request that content to be removed. And they get back to me very quickly and require approval from the head of school. And of course, I had the approval from business head of school very quickly, and within 24 hours, the content has been removed from the system. So it is a very easy and prompt process. And now I would like to hand over to Elizabeth, who is the course coordinator of the course, to share experience of how this tool helped her in the course.
Thank you so much. So my name's Liz Marsland, and I'm from the business school. So I was really pleased to be involved in this trial because the software was really easy to use. And as was demonstrated, it was able to look for suspicious content on any of the sites that we might typically see students would be using, including Chegg. And that's a live process while the assessment is still being undertaken. So the notifications are then provided to us, and the process then to actually take that down was really smooth. Once I was notified, and I was able to tell straight away that it was not something that we wanted to be published on a website. Then I needed to reach out to the head of school to seek approval, who of course gave approval almost instantly, and then back to the website to Chegg to take it down. So I was really impressed how it was able to detect plagiarism at the point before the students have submitted, and probably in that crucial phase, it was approaching where the assignment was due. So I think that that's sort of often a a dangerous territory where students may not have done the assessment and are just looking out for easy alternatives. And in summary, I found it was, great to, really easy to apply, and I can definitely see that it's got benefits to assist academic integrity.
Yep. Thank you, Elizabeth, for your sharing. I just want to make a note that while students can get to ChatGPT to get the answers for their assignment question, ChatGPT cannot guarantee that the answers is correct. But if students pay money to sites such as Chat or Hero, they've got the qualified answers. So this is how the difference between the tool that the student can have access to. Back to you, Elsa.
Can I just add there that Assignment Watch, we put the link in the chat, and it is free for anybody who wants to have a try of it with their course. We're interested in, whether it's beneficial to people. So Liz has already shared hers, which is great. We also would like to know, whether it works well with Studoku or any of the other file sharing sites as well, Course Hero. So if anyone wants to, please feel free to just try it with one of your assessment tasks and see how it goes. And if you need any help, just contact Italy.
And I'd just say as well, we've been told by CHAG that they will no longer deal with any honour code violations. They will not actually remove material for us.
Yes, I think that's part of a broader conversation, isn't it, Simon, about how are we going to leverage IP and copyright across these sites for the university and for lecturers? And I'm trying to progress that because we need to understand that situation, what authorities we have to, be able to enforce that that's our material. But yeah, that's another day's conversation, I guess.
Absolutely.
All right, I'll now hand to Peter to give us an update on resources available.
Good, thanks, Elsa. My name is Peter Rutherford. I'm a learning designer with Italy, and I'm just going to spend a few minutes now just going through some of the resources that have been developed as a result of the Academic Integrity Action Plan that's been in place. Firstly, I'll just take us back to the academic integrity modules that have been introduced for students. They're a new set from the last one. The great thing about these ones is that they've been made mandatory. So since semester 1 of 2021, we can probably anticipate there's been about 60,000 students that have completed them. There's a number of students who were caught up and had not completed them, and as a result, they received notification that they had to go back in and get them done. Otherwise, they wouldn't receive their final grades and they couldn't enroll in the following semester. So it's really good to know that we're actually capturing these people that haven't been doing the integrity modules and making sure that they do. I guess this semester we can expect that there's another 15,000 odd students that will be doing them. And the great thing about this is that we can be confident that all of the students who are new to UQ or new to a program since semester 1, 2021, have actually done the modules. Next thing I wanted to mention was the staff academic integrity modules. These are a companion piece for the student modules, just so teachers can get an appreciation of the messaging that we're sending out to their students. Mind you, with the integrity modules for the students, we'd still encourage teachers to go in there and have a look just so that they are familiar, but they can also use the staff ones as well. These have been recently redeveloped for the Graduate Teaching Associates program, and they've had summative assessment added so that the GTA participants can evidence their participation, but that assessment remains in there. So if anybody's using them, you're welcome to use it as a formative assessment for yourself. They've been, since the GTA development, they've been redeveloped for all staff, both academic and professional, to access, and they've been made suitable for the programs to enhance teaching and learning that Italy is involved with. These new modules contain more UQ content to reflect the work that's been done on the action plan since it's been initiated, and a little bit more contextualized to UQ as well. And I'll just have a look now. Now, one thing that we haven't mentioned, just back again, please, Elsa. We've actually got a set of remedial academic integrity modules. They're a replication of the AIM program for students, but these are suitable for use as a consequence if you've got students who are served with a misconduct notice for something that they've done on the lower end of the scale of misconduct. You might like to use these as a consequence for your students. There's assessment in there, and we can keep a record of who's completed the work, so you can be sure that if you set that as a consequence, that we can monitor who has actually completed the work as well. At present, they're not being used very broadly, but we'd love to see them more use made of them in different schools across the university. They're there, they're available. And it used to be that SCGR would monitor the link to them, but last year we sent that link out to all the integrity officers, and I say officers, so that they could share the link with the student as well. The other thing I wanted to mention was the community of practice that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. But if you're just new in your role this year, you're probably enrolled in it. If you're not and you didn't receive an announcement the other day, let me know and I'll make sure you're in there. What's there is a range of resources and information that will be suitable for you in your role. And also, Christine suggested that I'm sure we can do something about ChatGPT in there as well. So if you're not in the community of practice, just let me know. But generally, a lot of people following the first announcement for this year let me know that there's new staff involved. The other thing I just wanted to mention were the slides and discussion notes that we've got made available for a class discussion. It's an adaptable resource. You might like to use it in class at the beginning of the year or when you first initiate your assessment tasks. It covers a range of different misconduct areas that you can talk about with your students, including plagiarism, collusion, and more particular, contract cheating. We also updated them last year to include more information about file sharing sites, and we'll be looking to update them with some more material about ChatGPT as it evolves. The other thing is the academic integrity notice for the Learn UQ site. So when you're using Blackboard and you set up an assignment, what you might like to do is make this as an announcement in Blackboard, just to remind students of their responsibility to act with academic integrity. That notice can be customized to suit your course as well. The other one is the academic integrity pledge for students. The pledge can be included with your assessment instructions, and it encourages students to look at how they should be behaving with regard to academic integrity, and you can encourage the sort of conduct that you'd expect in your course. There's also content there in the, and I should just point out, this is in the early site under assessment, academic integrity. There's materials in there that you can use to help you and your markers identify contract cheating. There's two separate documents. One is an explanation of contract cheating and what to look for, and another one specifically for markers, because we know that markers don't have a lot of time, but it'll give them the opportunity to look for any of the telltale signs that might be in the assessment that they're marking. That's pretty much it for now. We do have an opportunity for you to suggest any more additional resources that you would like, that you think are needed. If you can let us know, you can drop them into the chat now, or you can communicate that to us at a later time. Generally, what sort of things don't we know about that you do that you think we need to develop? Thank you very much. That's it on the resources at the moment, but I'll cross over to Rowena and Rod, and they're going to talk to you about the policy framework. Thank you, Elsa.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rod, Manager of Student Complaints and Grievance Resolution, and Rowena Bauer, who's the Associate Director of Student Conduct and Integrity. As you're probably aware, at the beginning of 2021, a new student disciplinary framework was implemented on the basis of a review that was done, which recommended a few sort of not major changes, but tweaks to the process and policy emphasis, which was rolled out last year. So now that we've had 12 months of implementation, there's been an ongoing sort of review and feedback process to try and engage with ongoing sort of looking at things where there might be improved or where we can suggest changes and whatnot. By and large, the result we've found has been that the framework is acting as intended. The focus was to construct things in a way that students were going through a misconduct investigation and process a lot quicker to get an outcome, and also to put the emphasis back on a remedial process rather than a punitive process, so that students might have behaviour brought to their attention at an earlier level, and it can be dealt with at a level that's appropriate and only escalate higher if it becomes more serious or it becomes an entrenched pattern of behaviour. So what we've found is that with the introduction of the new instrument, which was the conduct notice, that a lot of students are opting to accept conduct notices and their matter is being dealt with at that initial level, and it's not proceeding through to a committee hearing and not proceeding to a high level such as misconduct board or appeals board. So the process is being dealt with relatively quickly compared to when previously the only option was to put it through to hearings and high level decision makers. So in that sense, we're finding that the result has been good. There's been a lot of feedback, and there's been changes made to the conduct notice to improve the language around it, what students are seeing, the understanding the process, and they're the sort of things where there's ongoing review. In what our focus for this year will be to continue to consolidate the process, the liaison between our team and integrity officers, schools and faculty units, to try and encourage the uptake and the knowledge about how the process works and how it can work for you. So there's a few things in the policy framework which we could see encourage school-based integrity officers to use, such as if a school-based misconduct committee makes a finding of guilt around an incident, but they feel that the penalty needs to be of a higher, more serious level than what is within their power to impose, they can refer that case to the misconduct board to consider a penalty that the committee recommends. So, the school has the power to determine the case, but they can refer it on the penalty for high level consideration if they find that through the hearing it turns out to be on consideration more serious.
And that's the matter. Simon will have an example of that when he talks about his case study.
Yeah. There's all things that we'll be continuing to communicate and liaise with everyone about in terms of clarifying types of misconduct, whether that's in the fine detail or whether it's the difference between general and academic categories. We encourage anybody just to pick up the phone and talk to us, to talk through those sort of grey areas which can be not clear when the evidence is presented. We're finding that at the moment, in types of misconduct that we're seeing trends in, we saw an upsurge towards the end of last year of big cases of medical certificate falsification, and these were on a scale that we've probably not seen before in terms of one student to the extent that they're doing it. These sort of cases can take a lot of investigative resource and take a lot of time to work through all the evidence. But what we find that if there is a like a person who's doing it a lot. It's an entrenched pattern of behaviour. It is important to get through those investigations so we can uncover the full extent that this behaviour has been used. We're finding we didn't have a high level of things like contract shedding last year, but as is obvious, there's more and more awareness now of the online space and all the different ways that students might be engaging with that to find advantage in their assessment. So that's one of the ongoing conversations, like with Italy and with integrity officers and different technologies, about how we detect, how we investigate, and what category we put it under. So that's going to be an ongoing conversation this year. Some of the focus that we want to have for this year is within each within the SCGR unit, we've got one person who's nominated as the contact for a faculty and their associated schools. And as we can see on screen, now the intent of that is that they can be the person that you can come to ask questions, to ask advice, or just talk about suggestions, make comment, talk about improvements to the process, or just talk through any issues that you might have. We will be proactive in making contact with integrity officers and professional teams in each school and faculty to try and just build up that communication, so that we don't want anyone to ever feel that they can't talk to us about any aspect of an investigation or the process, because the more that we communicate, the more that we're all on the same page. And we're also encouraging communities to practice within schools and with faculties, so that when you're talking about within a discipline, the sort of penalties and the cases that you might be encountering, you got that shared experience to talk through how to approach things and what outcomes you might be able to get. This year, there's a new database being implemented, which is a portal for all grievance and misconduct cases being lodged and then processed. So in the next few months, you'll be seeing a bit about that as we roll out implementation for that. It's currently going through testing phase and development for implementation. We will be engaging in training ongoing throughout the year. We will probably be setting a date soon for integrity officers and professional staff that want to come for orientation training in their role. We're available anytime if you can't make sort of training sessions, that we can set up online or one-on-one training within the school, that we can come out and just talk through process and procedure with you, just so that you're comfortable with the role that you're undertaking. By and large, we think that things are travelling fairly well, but as is always the case, there's challenges. There's always new types of cases that are popping up. So we just encourage you to just drop us a call or an email at any time if you've got anything that you want to talk to us about, and we're more than happy to engage with you about that. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Rod and Rowena. And now I'm going to hand over to Dr. Simon Will. He's going to present a case study on cheating in invigilated exam. So I'm just going to stop sharing. Simon, you're muted.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me now. Just going to move that off. Okay, so basically this is a case that I dealt with last year. Before I talk about that, I'd just like to talk about my team that I have, because this is certainly not a one-person job anymore. And we have approximately 100 cases per year going through the school, most of them arriving in the last few weeks of semester. So I have two integrity officers, Justin and Philip, that deal with a lot of the more simple cases, and then myself, who takes over with some of the more difficult ones or helps them when things get really busy. Then we have our administrators, the school manager and the executive assistant to the head of school, and they deal with a lot of the higher level paperwork and organising meetings with students. And then we have our local misconduct committee that I chair, and we have a pool of people that we dip into to take the hearings for the misconduct committee. So for us in SCMB, so I'm in the School of Chemistry and Molecular Biosciences, you can see our bread and butter misconduct is definitely plagiarism. Roughly 9 out of every 10 cases that we have proven misconduct findings are plagiarism. We get a bit of collusion, and we get a bit of recycling and self-plagiarism. And you can see what I'm going to talk about today. We've not had many cases. So 3 cases out of about 650 proven misconduct findings. And I did a bit of a back of an envelope calculation and worked out that of our assessment that's amenable to misconduct, it's about 1 in 385 submissions that actually lead to that a finding of misconduct. So misconduct, relatively new beast, defined here 2006, submission of work by students for academic credit, where students have paid contractors to write for them. So the case I'm going to talk about today was our big second level biochemistry and molecular biology course, because this is normally an internal course, but because of COVID, it was run externally. So we've been using Proctor-U online invigilated exams in a lot of our particularly big courses. You can see it was worth 35% of the course grade. Answers were to be typed onto into an online form, and they had basically in the order of 2 hours to look at the paper, answer it, and upload. And the allegation that came out was that a student had used a contract cheating service to get answers to exam questions while the exam was actually running. So the start of the case was actually something we did not initiate. It's something that came into UQ student administration at Faculty of Science level, and we received an anonymous email from this person referred to as Big Feet. And basically they were saying, you can see here's text from their email, they were saying that they were contracted by a student on this course to provide answers during the exam to a person so that they could basically use them. So Azrin Bazaran did a lot of work before it actually came to the school level. She collected a load of information for us, starting with that anonymous email. She collected Proctor-U recordings of the student in question, how the student had interacted with the university after the exam, because you'll see that is an important facet, and details of how the student's answers to the exam questions married with what the contractor had actually said. But at this stage, these were preliminary findings, so the student was not informed about this. Were the problems with the exam? Well, the first we started to get an inkling that there was something wrong was that the student had contacted the UQ chat service well after the end of the exam, saying that they'd been unable to upload their answers, and they were advised to email answers to the course coordinator. They did so, 13 photos of a handwritten exam. Now, of course, remember, this was a type-in exam, not handwritten. And they were originally ignored by the system because it was a late submission and it was well over the boundary where they wouldn't get any marks for their answers. So later on then at grade release, they contacted UQ Chat again and said, because they got 0 in the exam, they didn't get a high enough grade to apply for supplementary assessment and what could be done about it. So this was passed through the standard system the school uses, and because at this stage there was no obvious misconduct, they were given benefit of the doubt. They had contacted UQ Chat and so on, and so the submitted answers were marked and a grade was generated. They still failed the exam, but they had failed it well enough to be able to do supplementary assessment. This is now where things started to take a darker turn. When we received the material, you could see that there may be problematic proctoring of the exam. As we get 87 minutes into the exam, they ask if they can use their phone. The proctor tells them no. The student says, but I need to take photos of my answers to upload into the exam. Again, they're reminded, but you should have typed them in. Why didn't you do that? You don't need a phone. You can't use a phone. So the invigilator told them how to transfer their answers online and upload, and demonstrated even how to do it to them. For some reason then, and we haven't quite been able to work this out, in the chat box, there is a, okay, go ahead and use the phone. We don't know why. There's no conversation can be heard. Nothing seems to have been recorded. So the student began uploading their photos from a phone to a laptop, reminded by the invigilator not to do so, and then seemingly the student tried to upload their photos, but this was well after the exam had finished, so the exam site had timed out and closed. So what were we doing at the school level? Well, we received that notification bundle and it comes to me. I'm the central collecting point for our school. I'm referred to as our Chief Integrity Officer, and I allocate cases to Justin and Philip to review, and they process them as they see fit. That keeps me out of a conflict of interest if later on it comes to the local misconduct committee, which I then run. And so in this case, I sent it to Philip Sharp. Philip Sharp looked at it and said, yes, there is definite evidence of serious misconduct. It's not going to be able to be handled by a conduct notice. It should go to the next level of the process. So it was referred to the local misconduct committee. And this was part of our sort of 3-stage procedure that we have. We evaluate, then we investigate, and then we report in the process. And so in this evaluation phase, we decided it needed to go to the local committee. We then issued an allegation notice and arranged a hearing for the student. Student agreed to attend, but as part of the process did not register a plea, and also did not register a plea when asked again in the meeting. And so we started asking those important questions. As it turns out, the contractor had been given the login credentials of the student. So we were able to ask them, how did that third party get your login credentials? And the student came out with a story that they'd ask somebody to help them prepare for the exam. That's why they'd given those credentials. Then we were able to say, well, why do they have photos of your computer screen from the exam? Oh, no idea how that happened. Why were your answers similar to those that the informant had said they'd provided to the student and then provided to us? Again, the student said they did not know. Now, just to show you, here is the evidence we got from the contractor showing that they had all the information they needed to log on to the exam and be able to do various things on behalf of the student if they needed to. And this just shows you some of the detail of the student's answers. We'll not go through them line by line, but you can see, for example, in the true false, the contractor provided that there were 3 truths and then a false. That's what the student provided. If you look at the one sort of in the middle there, it's basically verbatim copying of what the contractor sent to the student then converted into handwriting, which they then submitted. Sorry, let me just kill that. And obviously submitting in handwriting meant that it could not go through Turnitin. So we couldn't actually look at to see whether it had even been plagiarized. So we started just subtly ramping up the pressure on the student, showing them more and more evidence. I haven't shown you all of the bundle of evidence that have been provided, and including the fact that we had the evidence that they'd use WeChat to exchange information. And eventually the student caved and admitted they actually did arrange for somebody to help them complete the exam. They'd failed previously. They then became very apologetic. And so we said to them, well, okay, thank you for admitting what you've done. Can you give us further details? Who is this person that you dealt with? How were you communicating with them, and so on? And we did get some more information from them, as you'll see now. This was information provided by the student about their interaction with the contractor, but we've never been able to actually find out exactly who this person is, and we've never been able to find out exactly how the interaction occurred during the exam. Both the contractor and the student are being very woolly in their recollection of how interactions occurred. So this is what we believe is happening in this case. So the exam, as you can see, there was a planning period, then the exam itself, and then a time for upload of the answers. We know the students started the exam at the correct time, and then towards the end of the exam, they asked the proctor to allow them to use their phone. And then somewhere very close to the end of the actual period of writing the exam, phone use was allowed for some reason. And the photos were uploaded onto a computer, but not uploaded onto the exam site. We can see this from the student's camera on their computer. Then roughly an hour and 20 minutes, I guess, after the exam, they contacted UQ Chat explaining they couldn't, having problems uploading their exam answers. And they were told to email to the course coordinator. So that gives this window here where even if they didn't actually do anything during the exam, they had about an hour to send things backwards and forwards between the contractor and the student. But we don't exactly know whether it occurred then or whether there was some way they managed to fool the proctor and do it during the exam. So at the end of the meeting, we reviewed the evidence. We found the allegation of misconduct was proven. We then had a look at penalties. And of course, as a local committee, we have a wide range of penalties, but we don't go up to the grade of G because that is only able to be given by the University Misconduct Board. And because previous cases that were handled under the old system, which had been passed on to faculty, had eventuated in a grade of G, we thought that was going to be an appropriate punishment in this case. So we referred it onwards, and the outcome was that this student did end up, after going through the University Misconduct Board with a grade of G. They were asked to retake the academic integrity modules and asked to go for academic counselling. Now, just overall, the 3 cases of this type of misconduct we've had in the school during my tenure, we have not detected any of these. They have been alerted to us by outside people, 2 by the contractors themselves because they did not get paid, and 1 by another student who saw another student actually using a service. Okay, that is all of my coverage. If anybody would like to ask any questions, I'm open to that. Otherwise, I'll hand over for the Q&A. So I'll stop sharing now.
Does anyone have any questions for Simon about that particular case? What's a G grade, Simon? What does that actually stand for?
That is basically grade which is withheld or removed due to misconduct. So that goes on their transcript and stays there.
Right. We did have some questions previously.
Mhm.
So student notification, I think this sort of came up. Do we tell the students we're using tools such as assignment watch and authorship? And I'll hand that one.
I, to be honest, don't tell them that. I do say that we have the ability to look for changes in writing style, but I don't actually tell them what tools we use.
Yeah. So can I just add to that? So in one of the resources that Peter shared, I think it's the pledge or the note, might be the notice, but it says UQ is monitoring for, misconduct, and sophisticated tools are used to meet, the equal sophisticated online cheating. So we tend not to tell the students about authorship or any of the detection tools, because I guess part of that is the fact that we'll probably find we have students trying to hack into those systems and different things. So we tend to just say we have these sophisticated systems and leave it at that. But you can tell them that, like you can put that up to say we are watching and we have these systems, but we don't tell them what they're called.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the sort of follow on to that is, how should we be educating students, Christine?
Well, certainly in my school, in particular, all these contract cheating cases have been in our postgraduate coursework programs, which are largely international students. I'm also director of the molecular biology postgraduate coursework program. And so I actually give an introductory session on academic integrity to those students, where we spend 3 hours working through cases of contract cheating and also more generic things like plagiarism and how to avoid that. But it doesn't seem to matter to them. I use some of the most severe cases that I can find of contract cheating, where people end up being blackmailed and all sorts of things. But they still seem to do it. They fall in a hole and they feel it's a valid way to get out of that hole, I think.
You got any thoughts to add to that one, Steve?
Sorry, I can't hear you very well, Elsa.
Do you have
Anything to
any
add?
thoughts to add to that?
I agree with Simon. We've had, I think some students, and I'm not sure how many, but I imagine quite a few, have difficulty connecting academic misconduct with professionalism. And they just, I think they do, they get the pressures. We know all the different types of things why students cheat. So it can be, a lot of them are under stress, or so there's that vulnerable student that can at any point be pushed too far. Obviously, we would have some hardened cheaters, but I would say more likely the student is the student that gets pushed, like the one example we had that was under pressure to pass for various reasons. And therefore, that in that instant, and if they get the persuasive messages of these sites coming to them to say, I can help you, and they tell them lies all the time about how this isn't cheating and all of this, and because of that pressure, that sort of relationship explodes into this, I'm going to cheat. but yet I am personally trying to see how we can connect the misconduct idea with not long you'll be a professional, or not long you'll be out, you know, and you'll be expected to behave in a certain way. There's codes of conduct around professions. It's a similar sort of behavior to, you know, abusing something like, say, on social media, and that separation of who you are as a person and your professional nature on social media. In some ways, it even's like in the CCATs, you know, you're told to do constructive stuff, but you still say some negative things that you wouldn't be appropriate. So somehow we have to get the message to the student that this is only one blip, this is only one part of your life, and they'll be, and I haven't yet got the answer to that, except to try and actually sort of talk more about that with them, and open to ideas.
I did notice Sarah Ritchie asked a question, which was how long did it take from starting the investigation to the grade being made G? My recollection was it was about 4 months from the start, because this was quite early on in the new process, and I don't think the misconduct board was meeting that regularly at the time.
Just a quick question, Simon. Were you and your team satisfied with the outcome?
That it was a grade of G, yes, we thought that was fair enough. I mean, in the end, that is really an indelible mark on their time here. So it's a pretty severe punishment, I guess, unless you went further than actually getting them kicked out of the university. That's pretty severe punishment.
We've got a question about assignment watch. I hand that one to Hong. Can we use assignment watch? And I think that must be copyright that we just gone. Hong, and do you know when the free trial finishes as well?
So currently, Edmund, who developed the tool, say that he still have the funding from different project funding. So the tool is still available for free, probably until the end of this year. And he said that he might be source other funding as well. So
we're going to have to wrap up because of time. So just last few messages. Workshops, we will be rerunning the contract cheating evidence gathering report preparation that we've run previously for any new academic integrity officers. We also have an identifying contract cheating workshop that's aimed at course coordinators. Let us know if you'd like us to run that as well. Basically, it's the content of identifying contract cheating is like the first, part of the longer contract cheating evidence gathering report preparation that we run for the academic integrity officers. Just to let you know, this session has been recorded and will be available at the conclusion of Ready to Teach Week, and all attendees will receive an email with a link to these resources and a request to complete a short survey at the end. I'd like to give a big thank you to everyone who's participated, especially for Simon for that very interesting case study and the preparation he's put into it. Like, it's really interesting to see a real case, to know that sort of the outcome. Do you want to say any last words? I'll let you say the last word, Christy.
Well, thanks everybody. We've had a large crowd of people here, and I thank you for participating. I guess, ChatGPT will make some angst around the ridges. There's no doubt about it for this semester. So we need to be, we need to be able to talk and talk about it. But yes, it's one thing. I've lived around academic integrity long enough to know we've had sensations before. So yes, they're always sensational, but we will work it through, and we will be able to come up with, a clearer way to go. And I would hope that we can all actually participate in that. But, there's other things going on as well. And so we really thank you for your service in these roles, and we would like to support you in that. So please contact whichever, you've met different ones of us now, so whichever part of the process you need help with or support, please feel free to contact us.